Today was really like the nail in the coffin. Trump just rescinded this rule that was put into place in 2009, which allowed the EPA to regulate gas emissions out of cars because climate change is a dangerous threat that is killing lots of people. This was leaked to the New York Times, a drafted plan to repeal a fundamental scientific finding that gives the US government its authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions and fight climate change. The proposed EPA rule rescinds a 2009 declaration known as the endangerment finding, which scientifically established that greenhouse gas emissions like carbon dioxide and methane endanger human lives, because they do. That finding is the foundation of the federal government's only tool to limit the climate pollution from vehicles, power plants, and other industries that are dangerously heating the planet. Climate change is killing lots of people. The floods in Texas, climate change. Right? The massive tornadoes, the massive hurricanes. Every year, weather events become bigger, more extreme, and more frequent. That's climate change, y'all. They intend to argue that imposing climate regulations on automakers poses the real harm to human health because it would lead to higher prices and reduced consumer choice, according to two people familiar with the administration's plan, which is bull. The draft proposal could still undergo changes, but if it's approved by the White House and formally released, the public would have an opportunity to weigh in before it's made final, likely later this year. If the Trump administration is able to repeal this, it would not only erase all current limits on greenhouse gas pollutions from cars, but also on factories, power plants, and other sources. It would prevent future administrations from trying to tackle climate change with lasting implications. I'm honestly trying to not cry for this video because crying on the internet is cringe. The Republicans wonder why people aren't having babies. Why? Why would I bring more children into the world if you are literally hastening the end of it? You are hastening the end of this planet being livable, and you think I want to bring more kids into it? You kidding me? They're also severely restricting the money from FEMA that would go towards helping people when they're like in these massive disasters caused by climate change, like floods and tornadoes and hurricanes. I want to remind you, so I grew up partially in Southern California, and in Los Angeles, we would have smog alerts and smog days where there was so much pollution that it was literally part of your weather report, right? Smog was so bad, you literally couldn't see like that far away. You had very low visibility in the way that you would with fog, except this was not fog, this was smog. This was smoke, tailpipe emissions. So it's going to argue that the EPA has overstepped its legal authority under the Clean Air Act by making a broad finding that greenhouse gas emissions endanger the public welfare, which it does. It makes the case that the EPA administrator has limited power that only apply to specific circumstances. However, there was a Supreme Court ruling from 2007 that actually conflicts with the action that Trump is trying to do. So that Supreme Court ruling from 2007 did find that greenhouse gases were a pollutant under the Clean Air Act. And that is what caused the EPA to make its finding in 2009 and to make this rule, which said that these 6 greenhouse gases were a threat to public health. So this may go all the way up to the Supreme Court. And at that time, there was over 200 pages that the EPA submitted that showed the science detailing how these greenhouse gases increased severe heat waves, storms, and droughts, and were expected to contribute to higher rates of death and disease, which it has. So maha moms, is this what you voted for?